band director at Washingtonville High School in Washingtonville, New York. And today we are going to be discussing the realities of becoming a music education major and a music teacher. And our hope is by talking to people that are either in college right now or just started their career, that you'll be able to make an informed decision to see if you should actually be a music education major and a music teacher one day. So first, I'd like to go through introductions. I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves. We'll go in order of Ben, Jess, Lance. When you introduce yourself, talk about your primary instrument, where you are and what you're doing now. And we'll just start with that. So, Ben?
Sure. So my name is Benjamin Kohn. My primary instrument is saxophone, and I am currently teaching in the Pembroke Central School District. I teach 4th through 6th grade band and 7th through 12th grade jazz.
And you just finished your completed your first year of teaching, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Just about to start my second.
Okay, Jess?
All right. Hi, I'm Jess Pax. My primary instrument is flute, and I'm currently teaching in the Yonkers public schools. I'm teaching high school instrumental music.
And you too just finished your first year of teaching.
Yes.
Okay. Lance?
My name is Lance Frayler. I am currently a sophomore enrolled at the Crane School of Music at SUNY Potsdam. My main instrument is clarinet.
And I'm going to have you each share a little about your background when you were in high school. What types of things you did in your musical background, like whether on ensembles you were in, what classes, and what types of any musical things you did outside of school, like honor bands. So let's go with Ben.
So in high school, I primarily played trumpet and saxophone in Washingtonville High School, and was involved in the jazz ensembles on piano and saxophone. Honor bands that I was involved with in high school was All County, NYSBTA, All State, and All Eastern.
Jess?
Yeah, so kind of similar-ish to Ben. I was also in like Washingtonville High School wind ensemble. I played flute, jazz band. I was on tenor sax. I did all counties, area all states, NYSBTA, and then I took private lessons with Miss Redeker here for several years.
And for the people that are watching, Ms. Redeker is my co-band director at Washingtonville High School. She's on mute right now, but she's watching our interview. Lance?
So just like Ben and Jess, I was in the Washingtonville Wind Ensemble for most of the years. And my last year, I did the jazz band on Barry sax, and I did all counties, and I did an area all state.
Okay, so let's talk about what type of person would you recommend being a good fit to be a music education major? Anything that comes to mind? Let's go in the same order. Ben?
Sure. So to be a music education major, you're going to have to put in a lot of hard work. You will live at the music building wherever you choose to go. So a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, but also as part of being a music education major, you need to be able to be flexible, work well with others, and that kind of goes along with becoming an educator, to be warm, to be kind, to be understanding.
Yes?
I second everything Ben said.
Okay. Lance?
I third everything Ben said.
Okay, so there's agreement. Is there any type of person that you would say may not be a good fit for a music education major beyond, yes, say someone that's not dedicated, but what type of person may not be a good fit, even though they love music? Ben, any thoughts?
Well, you have to want to teach. That's the number one thing. If you are just kind of in it to just, oh well, I think this might work. That's okay, but we want to make sure that as a music educator, you want to educate people in music. The students will know if you're just kind of in it to be in it. So it is important to actually be dedicated in your work. And to be ready to work with actual real people in the school districts.
Jess, any thoughts?
I think kind of just adding on that, like as well as wanting to educate the students, like just being able to care about them too. Like, again, like you said, if you're just in it to be like, oh, well, I can be playing my instrument and maybe this will work. Like, you're not going to be reaching the kids fully and reaching the whole student in that way.
Lance, let me add the question. Since you're in college presently, do you see, and you may not, do you see any students that are music education majors that you're looking at going, they may not be a good fit? And if that's the case, can you share to our viewers why?
Yeah, absolutely. The people who usually wind up deciding to make the switch are actually making the switch, which we've had a lot of. We have a lot of people go from education to performance, and that's kind of what I'm going to add on to this. If you're a person who just loves playing your instrument, there's nothing wrong with that. There's majors for that too. You have to be really in it to just dive into helping people form these connections in their head on how to play, what music is, and the stuff like that, not just the playing aspect itself.
Now let's move on to, for a high school student that thinks they really do want to go into this, what types of things would you suggest they do to help prepare themselves in advance while they're in high school to better set themselves up for their experience in college? Not only getting in, but while they're actually there. Ben?
So I think the biggest thing really, I was fortunate enough to start piano at a young age in elementary school. Believe it or not, if you want to become a band teacher, orchestra teacher, a choir teacher, general music teacher, you are going to have to take piano classes. So I was fortunate enough to start, so I felt pretty, comfortable with piano. However, I had friends and I knew people who, never really touched a piano until they got to college. And they always said, wow, I really wish I took piano lessons in high school, in middle, sometime before college. So if you could touch a piano, get used to it a little bit, maybe take a lesson or two before going to college, I would highly recommend that.
Jess?
I agree there, but I think another thing, if you're able to in your high school to take a music theory class, like I was able to do that and I had some music theory knowledge going into college, but I had some like classmates who went into our first semester of music theory and it took a lot for them to be able to catch up and be able to stay at the same pace in that class. And then I guess another thing, if you have the ability to, I was lucky to be able to do a work study when I was in my senior year of high school over at our middle school in Washingtonville and work with the band kids and kind of see like, oh, could this be a good fit for me? So
Now let me interject there.
mhm.
Washingtonville, we do sometimes give the opportunity for seniors to have work experience. So what Jess did, and Ben, you were part of that too, they went over to actually work with our middle school band director teaching. So they got some real experience, and that helped them, and you can tell me if I'm correct, with solidifying their decision to become a music teacher. Is that correct?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Lance, is there other things that you may think of would be helpful for a high school student, what they could actually do now to help prepare themselves for becoming a music education major?
Yeah, I couldn't agree any more about what Jess said about finding some prior study with music theory. I had a little bit, thanks to you, Mr. Contzius, but it's a very harsh learning curve in music theory. It takes off very fast, and they expect you to have a pretty good understanding of music at its roots off the beginning. But other than that, I would say just because you're going for education doesn't mean you won't be playing your instrument. You should really try to get into a good practice routine, because that's where you're going to be spending a lot of your time of the day is practicing your instrument, because you have levels you need to pass in juries, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
And let me add on to that for the high school students in terms of preparation. If you're not already taking private lessons, that would be a great way to help improve your skills. If you have opportunities in your school system to audition for outside of school opportunities, whether it be honor bands or even summer camps, those types of things are very helpful. All right, now let's talk about actually attending the college. Let's start with when you decide to become a music education major. When did that happen for each of you? That might be a little different. So let's start with Ben.
So music has always been a big part of my life. A lot of people in my family play music, and I was always surrounded by it. And I actually knew, I think quite early, compared to others, when I wanted to become a music teacher, a band teacher. I knew in the 6th grade that that's what I wanted to do. And I saw how much fun and how much my middle school band teachers enjoyed teaching music. And I knew that I also at that age wanted to share my passion of music with others. And So from there, I, got older, went through middle school and high school, and the older I got, the more I loved band and music, and decided to go for music education, and I'm loving what I'm doing.
Jess?
I also kind of decided it pretty early. It was around middle school-ish. I want to say like 8th grade is when I was like, I could teach band, because I'm seeing my teachers have so much fun with teaching band and sharing their love for music with with myself and my peers. And then I think having that same experience in high school with a positive just band experience with Mr. Contzius really helped me solidify, yes, this is what I want to do for my living, and I'm enjoying it as of now still.
Lance?
So I decided pretty late. About the beginning of my senior year of high school, I was pretty lost on what I wanted to do. I didn't really have an idea, but then it just kept occurring to me that the only high school class that I never really felt any sort of bore or exhaustion or just like ugh to going to was music, with whether that be chorus or ensemble. And then I realized that I just had a really deep understanding that I did play a lot of music for my entire life, and that I should really start like going closer to music. And that's when I really formulated that I wanted to be an educator.
Now, we'll have some high school students watching this that know, yeah, I really want to do this. Now I got to decide where to go to college. Can you give some general thoughts about how you decide to go to your school? And again, we have 3 different schools here. Ben went to Fredonia, which is in New York. Jess went to Ithaca, which is also in New York, and Lance is at Crane School of Music, which is also in New York. But all of you chose 3 different schools. So what helped make your decision for choosing the college right for you?
So for me, attending Fredonia, I would definitely suggest going to the campus, visiting the campus, talking to the professors, talk to the students. I was able to shadow a student for an entire school day. So I got to go to their classes, go to their ensembles, and I saw how the professors taught, what the pedagogy was of the School of Music there. And I honestly, I fell in love with the program, and I just thought that, wow, these professors are really incredible. And that's where I knew I wanted to go.
Jess?
Similarly to Ben, but I think the big thing that really influenced me, yes, I want to go to Ithaca, was my flute professor, and being able to either have a lesson or something with the different schools that I applied to, of like, oh, would I work well with this primary studio professor, since I'm going to be seeing them so much and working so close with them. If I felt like I didn't click with them that well, it didn't feel like the best fit. But my professor at Ithaca was phenomenal, and I remember the first time I had like a short lesson with her when I was deciding on schools. I was like, yeah, I want to go to Ithaca and study with her.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Ms. Redeker and I both strongly encourage students when they visit the school to set up a lesson with the professor if they can. It may just be as easy as emailing them or contacting by phone. A lot of them will do the lesson for free because they're trying to attract students. It also gives you an edge because they will learn about you often before the actual audition date, depending on when you go to the school. So that's a great advice, Jess. Thank you. Lance, thoughts about how you chose your school?
Yeah, so one of the greatest things about it was that Mr. Contzius actually knows the clarinet professor at the Crane School of Music, Dr. Doyle. So thanks to that, we set up, like he mentioned, a private lesson for that. I went up there for 2 days, and the first day was my private lesson, and just sitting there with Dr. Doyle, it felt like in 15 minutes, I learned things about clarinet that just changed the way I played instantly, like instantly. She taught me things I had been doing wrong subconsciously, embouchure-wise, just like amazing stuff immediately that changed my perception of the instrument. And then the next day, the clarinet studio took me on a personal tour around basically the entire campus. And it was really just a sense of community I felt immediately after getting there. I didn't feel like out of place, anxiety, where am I? I felt like it was right. And right after that day, you guys remember, I actually committed to Potsdam.
I'd say that telling each of you, did you feel like you were at home when you finally found your school? Okay.
Yes.
There we go. So go see the schools. Okay. now you're at college. Okay. What are the most interesting classes that you took as a music education major? It could be one or it could be multiple. And we'll be quick. Ben.
So I think the most interesting class I took would have to be elementary methods. In this class, we got to play secondary instruments and act like elementary school students, while our peers would go and teach elementary band. You never know what your peers will throw at you, whether they're holding their instrument completely wrong, or talking to the person across the room during your instruction. And, you know, as someone who primarily teaches elementary and middle school age students, that's kind of where I, you know, kind of found like, oh, wow, this is fun. You know, and you know, the students that I work with, I think it really trained me to be ready for anything that real elementary students throw at you. But I think that was definitely the most interesting class that I took.
Jess?
I think mine was our lab band, which we did our junior/senior year of college, and it was all the music ed majors. We were also on secondary instruments, and we took turns either conducting through an already written piece, and again, had things thrown at us from our peers of like asking questions that you would not expect to hear, but keeping yourself on your toes, and ending with a final project where we had to each compose like a level 1 like NISMA grade piece, though short, and we'd all get to play through it with this group of people and have a recording of it, which is pretty cool. So
And Lance, you're just started your second year of college. So what did you have any favorite classes so far?
I'm actually currently enrolled in it. I know it's only been a week, but this class, Principles of Music Education, it's already, just from reading the syllabus, and we're already 2 chapters into the book, it's just the class that really dives into the psychological aspects of being an educator, and then kind of like merging that and relating that to music and music theory and stuff like that. And it's actually just a really cool class, seeing how all the things do simultaneously just link together.
Now, it's important that high school students watching this, they have to know that everything can't be pretty all the time in your experiences in college. So I do want to share some of the maybe not so happy sides of being a music education major, whether it be a particular class that you enjoy or a certain experience. But what should they know in advance that, look, you better be able to deal with the difficult sides as long as you can, then you'll make it through. So what are some of the things that you may not have enjoyed quite as much? Let's start with Ben.
Well, if I had to choose kind of my least interesting class, and that would probably have to be music theory 4, especially if it's at 8 a.m. And I'm sure Jess and Lance can attest to that. You know, it's music theory is really important. So obviously, please go to your classes and make sure you're ready to go and study. But I definitely think, you know, music theory 4 would be, you know, my least interesting class, and kind of like, oh my gosh, do I have to do this? Yes, you do. It will translate to any age level that you are teaching, believe it or not, from high school all the way down to elementary students.
Jess?
I second Ben. I also had an 8 a.m. music theory 4. And again, it was really useful, and I had a great teacher. It was just having it at 8 a.m. and all of that was just kind of like, but very useful and very like beneficial to have still.
Lance?
Yeah, I'm gonna third all of them and go ahead and say the 8 a.m. music theory. I'm not in music theory 4 yet, so I don't know the devastation that's supposedly coming my way, but I am in theory 3. And but yes, the morning classes, that seems to be synonymous with all kind of music education fronts. You're going to have very early, complicated classes. So you need to find a way to get yourself up and running pretty early.
Well, so let me ask, since you all mentioned about music theory, what is the challenge or the thing you don't like the most? Is it the actual subject of the difficulty of it, or is it just the fact that it's early in the morning?
I think it's, you know, kind of a mix, you know, because music theory 4, at least the way Fredonia structures it, is, you know, it's pretty complex music theory, you know, to the point where musical notes are actually numbers. So, you know, and you do have to be awake in order to read musical numbers. So I think it's honestly kind of a mix between what the curriculum entails, but also just making sure you are up and ready to go. You're not rolling out of bed 20 minutes before and running over to the music building.
Anybody else want to add to that, or does that sum it up?
That was
Okay. Well, now we're going to move on. The last thing that you do, or the big experience as a music education major, is student teaching. So this is going to be focused, obviously, with Ben and Jess, since Lance is not to that point. So student teaching, let's, for our viewers who may not know what that is, let's start off, Ben, explain what it is, and then can you just give a brief of your experience of your student teaching?
Sure. So student teaching is where you will be placed in a school district or school districts during, at least in Fredonia, normally your last semester of your 4-year undergraduate degree. And so what it is you will literally go to this placement, wherever you are placed, and you will observe, but mostly teach alongside your cooperating teachers. You will have meetings with your college about how it's going. They will observe you here and there. But it's really kind of the first introduction to teaching real life kids for most people, instead of where in college you will be teaching kind of your peers, acting like elementary school students, for example. My student teaching experience, I think, was a bit unique. I'm not sure, Jess, what yours exactly was, but mine was during COVID. It was at the end of COVID, the end of COVID, if you will. So my first placement was elementary band, and for that, COVID was more prominent during the beginning of my first placement, and so we had band very spread out. Just a handful of kids in the room, as well as students on the smart board at the same time. So we were definitely trying our best to get through it. We were all wearing the instrument masks. But with that being said, with all the limitations that we had, I still had an amazing experience teaching the kids band and lessons.
Jess?
So Ithaca does student teaching a little differently. So I had a junior student teaching and a senior student teaching. My junior one was the entire school year, once a week. We had a group of like 3 of us that went over to the local elementary schools, and we did one-on-one lessons with about 3 or 4 students. And then we did a combined band with all of them, because the school that myself and a few of my peers were at, they didn't have an actual band. They just had students on instruments that would then have the middle school band when they went there next year. So that was 4th and 5th graders, and it was just individual lessons, and that was a really positive experience. And then my senior student teaching experience was middle school band, and it was not a great experience. It was pretty tough to get through, honestly. I didn't actually get to really teach much during it, but I guess what got me through it was having the support of either my band directors and also my colleagues up at school to kind of keep me from not leaving teaching. And I'm glad that I was able to just stick it through and do the best that I could during that time.
All right, so now you graduate college and it's time to find a job. So let's go ahead and talk briefly about the process. Like, what is a high school student going to expect, 4.5 years from now, or whenever they watch a video, about getting a job? So what's the job search process like that you experienced, Ben?
Sure. So there are different websites that districts will use to post their listings, whether it be OLAS, WinnieRic, depending on where you are in the state and in the country. But really, for applying to jobs, you have to make sure that you have multiple letters of recommendations from trusted sources, people you have worked with in the past or are currently working with, as well as a cover letter that you will most likely need for every district that you apply to, and a resume, so that the district looking to possibly hire you can see everything that you have done in your musical career. So after applying, and if the school reaches out to you, every district is different. There might be 2 interviews, there might be 3, might be even more than that. But I'll share my experience with how most of my interviews went when applying for band positions. They would ask a series of questions, maybe up to 15-20 minutes worth of questions with a panel. My first interview was a snare excerpt and a secondary instrument of the opposite family. My second interview, just as an example, was an even bigger panel and even more questions, and then a performance on my primary instrument, and as well as a demo lesson with real students they pulled in during the summer. And then my final interview was a one-on-one with the superintendent. I have to say every school is a bit different with how they do their interviews. Definitely apply to jobs that you want to do that look like this is what I want to do every day. And yeah, that was my experience with interviews.
Jess?
I guess similar, and like you'd have like first interviews kind of with a panel of some kind or some sort of performance. Had a few demo lessons. Some of them were like summer school. Some of them they were like, oh well, it's a band position, but you're going to do a general music demo lesson over the summer. So like making sure you have that flexibility and you're prepared there. And then just really applying to places that you can see fit for yourself. One thing I wish I did was looking into the school districts before I interviewed and kind of seeing, okay, what is their music program like? And all of that, to do your research on that school before applying and interviewing.
Now let's talk about the real life of teaching here. Let's first of all address what you're teaching, because I've had students in the past that although their primary might be, let's say, band, like they're an instrumental person, they might be teaching a guitar class, they might be teaching strings, chorus, general music, and so forth. Are there any of the things that you teach presently, Ben and Jess, is there anything that you teach that you didn't expect yourself having to teach at this point?
Yeah, so when I was hired, it was for 4th through 6th grade band, and it was told that I would be doing 7th through 12th grade jazz. And I have 2 concert bands and 2 jazz ensembles. I am the kind of person who loves to get involved in as much as I can. To my surprise, and I wasn't expecting this at all, especially my first year, I was asked to also assistant direct the elementary choir, where I accompany them. I was asked to accompany the junior and senior high choirs, as well as assistant direct the elementary musical, and do the sound and lights for that as well during performances, and play in the high school pit, as well as do the pep band. So I definitely am super excited about all of that. But to my surprise, I was not really expecting to be asked to do that right away, especially as a first year teacher. But I'm glad they did, and I'm absolutely enjoying it.
Now, Jess, your experiences are probably different from Ben because your school. Can you briefly talk about the makeup of your school system and then what your job is like?
Yeah. So the school that I'm in it's a huge district, inner city school, and we're one of several high schools. So I'm teaching instrumental music at one of them. But what I didn't know going into it, I thought, okay, I'm going in, I'm going to be teaching band. I came in, there was no band, no instruments really. And it was kind of taking that program and building it from pretty much the ground. There was a few students that had some experience in guitar and piano and saxophone, but I had to get some resources together, get kids on instruments, and it's kind of a mix of an instrumental class and general music I'm trying to take a more modern band approach to it this coming school year. So it's definitely strange, but I've found a lot of rewards and benefits, like for myself, and seeing my students who have had no music experience prior to this year be able to be playing and have reached out to me over the summer telling me how they're practicing and they're enjoying practicing and all that.
Now, what would you say is some of your most challenging aspects of your teaching experience up to this point, now that you got done with your first year of teaching? Ben?
Well, every district is different, and I definitely, believe that there is a learning curve with how the district functions, the different softwares they use, how to put in a purchase order request, things like that. I'm just trying to remember, how to, work administratively within the district. Every district is different. But after a couple of months, I was like, okay, now I know how to order music and how to order instruments and how to order pencils. So I think really just learning those processes, when in a new district, especially as a first-year teacher, while you're also trying to get your feet on the ground, could definitely be kind of a challenging aspect of the job.
Jess?
Yep. I second what Ben said, and like kind of like having that administrative side of things and how to deal with different paperwork, and again like trying to get music in, like for my program, getting funding for our program and having the ability to even, okay, we're doing a marching band performance and we need buses to be able to get our students there. How do we get that done when the district might have a bunch of like tricky ways and like paperwork and extra steps that we'd have to follow to make sure that we can get that and have our students get to these performances safely?
So let's switch now to some of the better side of teaching. Here you are, you finally get your degree, you're out there, and now give me one good story from each of you of a good experience that you had this past year that meant a lot to you.
Well, I definitely think like the biggest reward in teaching are the kids. Whether it be a fourth grader making their first note on an instrument and getting excited about that, or a senior really nailing their jazz solo. So the kids are really what it's all about. A specific story that I can think of, teaching music is not about teaching kids to become band teachers. It's about giving them the outlet. I believe it's about giving them the outlet of music to use in their lives, if they so choose to. If they want to become a band teacher in the end, great, bonus points on top of that. I had a specific student who wrote me a lovely letter saying, basically, I'll paraphrase it. Thank you for always believing in me and for giving me the opportunities you gave me during the school year. I was a lead in the musical because you're so kind. I learned another instrument because you believed in me, and I now know what I want to do in my life because of you. And so like it was a really, really touching note. But really the kids is what it's all about, working with the kids and just watching them grow musically. It's just really great.
Jess?
I definitely agree. Like just seeing my students who have never touched an instrument in their lives, suddenly they're playing in our, like, we didn't have all county, we had all city, where we brought all 5 schools that had, or 5 to 7 schools that had band programs, and all the schools that had choir. We all came together for one big performance, and we had like a week-long preparation, and it was just kind of like teacher recommendation, and most of my kids that wanted to do it were able to be involved, and they would practice with one another. And I remember it was leading up to the performance, and all of my kids were rehearsing with one of the other band directors because we all were alternating who conducted. And one of my students' parents came up to me, and she works in our school, and I see her all the time. She's super sweet, but she came up to me and was like, I just wanted to thank you for everything you've done for my child. Like, I've only ever seen the arts from a staff perspective, but now seeing it from the perspective of a staff member and a parent, my child has never had an interest in the arts, has never touched a music class of any kind in his life. And now he brings his instrument home every night and he's excited to practice, and he'll video call his friends and they'll all practice together. And she's like, I've never seen him this happy and this passionate about something. And I just wanted to like thank you for that. And just, I don't know, just things like that, hearing it from parents and also from my students too, about how much music is bringing to them, it just makes me feel really good.
Now, not everything about your job, it's got to be perfect. There's got to be some frustrations. Can you give me one frustrating thing that you've experienced that our viewers may be interested in hearing about?
So my first year was kind of unique. I was actually living very far away from my district and was traveling about an hour and 10 minutes one way to work. So that definitely took a toll, just in my daily life, also on my car, and, just time in the day. One thing about the job, and I know every district is different. when we put in PO requests, purchase order requests, we have to do it on the school property. We need to be on in their Wi-Fi system in order to order things. And, you know, living over an hour away from the school definitely made things difficult when, you know, maybe we were on a break or on a vacation and I wanted to order music or mouthpieces or pencils. You know, I had to think, should I drive 2 hours and 20 minutes round trip to order erasers? You know, and especially over winter and summer breaks, I might be visiting family, you know, back home in Washingtonville, you know, 5 hours away from, you know, where I work. You know, I want to make sure that I have everything for the kids, for myself, whether it be returning in January from winter break or returning in the fall from summer break. And so, you know, with that, you know, transportation aspect, I did make it work. I came up with, you know, reasons to go up and visit and put in PO requests over the summer, as well as over winter. And everything was great, but I think if I really had to choose something, it's definitely having to be on the property in order to put in purchase order requests.
Jess, any frustrating aspects?
I mean, definitely also similar with the commute. I also had like an hour 10, hour 15 commute, and it's rough. But I think something that's frustrating about where I am is seeing this program that I'm in thriving with the kids being passionate about it, but we aren't able to get any sort of funding. And the kids have tried advocating for it. We've been tirelessly trying to advocate for it, but those funds end up going to other things. And sometimes they're beneficial and sometimes, but seeing the arts not get, I guess, the support that they should in that sense. Because like I do love my students and I love the colleagues that I'm working with here, but I'm trying to think about how to word it. I feel like there's more that can give us a bigger push to really establish either a band. I have some students that have been asking, when are we going to have an actual concert band? But we have like a lack of resources. And again, we're doing the best we can. And I'm thankful for those that have been able to help. But I think seeing the arts be neglected is one of those things that
sounds
pretty
like
tough.
my second to last question is, are there aspects of your job that are out of your control? Because you've all said right from the beginning that it sounds like you need to be a flexible person being a music teacher. So is there anything that are out of your control that someone watching this, that just to point out, you really do need to be a flexible type of person to be a music educator?
Yeah, well, you know, really, a lot of the things that are, I mean, depending on the district, I guess out of my control is more of the administrative side of things. You know, so whether that be purchase order requests or just, you know, trying to get everything in paperwork wise, to do things for your students. You know, if there's an event that overlaps with your event, you know, which one draws more volume of a crowd. You know, you might need to move a concert, you might need to move, you know, things like that. Student attendance, you know, the students like to be involved in everything. And, you know, it's important, you know, there are students, you know, I'll think about high school jazz, for example. There are students I have in my high school group, and it's great. You know, the students are playing football, who are in jazz band, who are in baseball, who are in marching band, who are in volleyball. You know, and as a district, you know, sharing the kids is what's really important. But there are times where you will have to miss a student because there's a game. Vice versa, if you know, you're an athletic director or a coach, there's a time where a student might have to miss a practice because we have a concert. So it's really just finding that balance, that happy balance between all the departments in a district. That's what's really important.
Jess, is there anything that you find that you have control in, that you just have to go with the flow?
I guess I'd also agree with Ben and like the scheduling and the kids that are doing everything. And it's like, well, maybe we'll be short this one student, or maybe this team will be short this student when we have a concert or a performance, and finding that happy balance of letting these kids be able to do the things that they're involved in and not having to feel like, oh, they're solely doing this or solely doing that.
I want to mention for our viewers that not everybody that we teach is as passionate and in love with music making as we are. Do you have any of those types of students in your program that you're still required to teach. I just want to make that point.
So yeah, there are a couple of students who might just join band because they need an arts credit. So there are the students that really enjoy playing their instrument and are there because that's their livelihood. And then there are students that are like, well, I do need an arts credit to graduate high school, so I'm gonna go join the band or join the choir. But as an educator, and like we mentioned earlier in the video, flexibility is really important when becoming not just a music educator, but just an educator in general. And to have that flexibility to be able to work with any student that comes your way, whether it be top-notch musician or just a student who wants to get out of class. You have to put 110% into every student that you get.
Jess, do you have any students that may not be as excited as you as a teacher?
Yep, definitely, especially because a lot of the kids are there for an arts credit, or in my school, the kids have to choose an academy, and our instrumental music program is a part of our arts academy. So sometimes if the other academies aren't a good fit for them, they get just put into my class, which I don't mind. I'm happy to have them, but there are some kids that you can tell they don't want to be there, but still trying to just get them involved the best way that you can and make things interesting for them and try to make it that, even though you can't reach every student, but you're going to do the best you can as an educator to work with every student as best as you possibly can.
And before we wrap this up, I want to give each person a chance to answer this. Again, what type of person you say that is, yes, you're making the right decision to be in music education, or you really may want to consider something else? I sort of a wrap up. It may be something we've already said in the beginning, but Lance, any last words to our viewers?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're just really loving band, you're loving playing your instrument, you're loving being there in that environment, don't stay away from music. Just do a different music major. Go for music performance. It's equally as amazing. You don't go through all the teaching classes, but you go through classes on how to play your instrument better.
Ben?
So yeah, again, as a music educator, or really any educator, flexibility, compassion, being warm and understanding, hardworking and dedication is really just kind of just the beginning of what it is to become a music educator. And so again, you're going to live in that building, in that music building at your college, more than you are your dorm, so be ready to really get to know the people around you. Because they will become your family, whether you like it or not. And just get ready to put in a lot of hard work. And if you do really want to become a music educator and teach music, then go for it. The kids are going to know if you're not really into it. So really, ask yourself, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And if it is, I highly suggest it.
Jess?
I think it's already been said perfectly of what I was going to say.
And I would add on to that is make sure you love people. This is a people job. Ms. Redeker, I don't know if you're still with us here. If you want to add anything else, any final comments?
No, you guys have done a fantastic job in sharing your experiences, and it's really impressive to hear how you've all grown through the challenges you faced and how much you really truly enjoy your job. I would propose one last short final question to each of you, and that is, if there's someone watching this right now who is really, truly on the fence about maybe majoring in music, like they think they might like it, but they're not really sure, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do, what might you say to that person?
So, there are people who join, become a music major and then end up changing, whether it be from music education to music performance, or whether it be anything music related to math education or, mechanical engineering. So while, it is important, like, yes, you can definitely 100% try out being a music ed major or being a music major. It's okay to switch majors halfway through. It's okay to transfer schools. Because everyone has their own timeline, is what I believe. And eventually you will find what you want to do. and you'll find what you're supposed to do. And if that means taking a semester or a year of music education and realizing, you know what, maybe I need to, become an engineer, that's fine. Or if you like, I do need to switch schools, okay, go ahead and transfer. You eventually will find out what you will want to do and what you will do.
Jess?
Ben said it really well. Like it's okay to give it a try and see how it goes, but at the same time, you're going to find your own path and see what fits you best.
And before we get to Lance, I'll interject. The only downside for trying it out and then switching is time and money, because you may delay graduation because you're not getting all your courses you need for your new major, and that could cost money. So, Lance, any other thoughts?
Absolutely what Ben and Jess said, but another great thing you can do is find programs that put yourself in the shoes of what something like a normal week of being that involved in music is like. There are so many things over the summer. I know this summer is kind of gone now, but even throughout school years, there are programs you can join that are youth music programs, and they put you through almost what feels like a week of constantly practicing music. I know Crane does one called Crane Youth Music. You're here for a week and it's music. It's music every single day. And that's a good expectation of what you're going to get into when you're going to be a music educator.
Excellent. Ms. Redeker, any final words for our viewers?
I thank you guys for everything that you've shared. Those of you who are watching right now, I think that you've heard a variety of experiences from the side of a college student to first-year teachers. You also have the music teachers in your life, and any of those music teachers in your life can connect you with other music teachers as well. One thing that's really important to note is that it is highly unlikely that you will end up teaching in the type of program that you came from. And so we all start off with sort of a perfect picture of what being a music teacher should look like. And very few of us start our careers there. And so what everyone said before about willingness to be flexible, ability to be flexible, to go with the flow, to learn and adapt, to build relationships with your coworkers and your peers, as well as the students, your community, the families that you're working with every day. Those are all things to keep in mind, because your first teaching job may not be your ideal dream situation, but you have to know that you love the students and teaching music enough to make it worth it. And if that is in question for you, that again would just be another one of those points to consider. Is this really where I want to go and what I want to be doing? Because you certainly have people in your life who will support you doing that if that's what you decide. But you have to know in your heart that it's the right fit for you, because it's not easy work. It's worth it and it's wonderful, but it is not easy.
Yes. And I'll leave by saying, please talk to your own music teachers, not only high school teachers, but your middle school and elementary teachers. Ask what their experiences are like, because you already know them and trust them. So they'll be a great resource. Thank you very much, everybody, for answering all these questions. And viewers, I hope this is helpful in your decision-making for your future. Thank you for joining us.